This passage is an extreme example of sports commentary being transformed into exaggerated mythology, presenting Caitlin Clark not simply as a talented rookie or rising star, but as an unstoppable force allegedly dismantling the very foundations of the Women's National Basketball Association. The language is deliberately hyperbolic, framing ordinary league discipline, technical fouls, and media scrutiny as part of some coordinated campaign by the WNBA establishment to suppress her rise, despite there being no evidence that standard officiating decisions or media questions are part of a deliberate effort to regulate her into submission. Claims that the league desperately tried to penalize Clark, force her into apology, or make her defer to veterans are dramatic inventions designed to fuel a conflict narrative rather than reflect objective reality. In professional basketball, technical fouls, flagrant reviews, physical play, and tough press conference questions are all routine parts of competition, especially for high-profile players who naturally attract more scrutiny. The suggestion that her post-game comments after playing the Golden State Valkyries represented some terrifying declaration of conquest is another clear attempt to inflate normal athlete confidence into something theatrical and symbolic. Competitive players often respond to criticism with confidence and composure, but that does not mean they are delivering terrifying messages to the league or conquering the old guard. The passage's framing of Clark as an undisputed apex predator who has entirely conquered the WNBA old guard is designed for sensational engagement, not factual analysis. Likewise, references to her allegedly dismantling fake defensive statistics and exposing hidden truths about coaching confusion under Stephanie White rely on dramatic suggestion rather than concrete evidence. This style of commentary intentionally blends basketball analysis with cinematic storytelling, using phrases like absolute masterpiece of composure and defiance and ripping the doors off the hinges to create a larger-than-life spectacle. The real reality is far more grounded. Clark is a highly skilled and exceptionally marketable player who brings intensity, confidence, and competitive fire to the court, but portraying every post-game media appearance as proof of institutional collapse or psychological domination over the league is manufactured drama meant to maximize excitement, clicks, and emotional investment rather than provide balanced, accurate sports reporting.
Oh, no way. Oh, it just makes sense for the refs tonight, so I'm not surprised. Wow, I could have got ejected. I should have been a little safer in the second half. Okay, well, guess I have some fines coming my way. And a flagrant. Wow. Well, the refs were interesting, but I'm not going to say anything else because obviously I got probably $1,000 worth of fines coming my way, but I was just trying to get the rebound and I didn't know I got a technical foul, but thanks for letting me know. I appreciate it.
This passage is another heavily exaggerated and theatrical interpretation of what was likely a routine post-game exchange involving Caitlin Clark, turning ordinary competitive remarks into an overblown narrative of dominance, rebellion, and psychological warfare against the Women's National Basketball Association. If Clark was genuinely surprised to learn she had received a technical foul and responded casually or humorously, that would not be unusual in the emotional aftermath of a fast-paced professional game, where players are often unaware of every officiating decision in the moment. Likewise, if she joked about possible fines or made a lighthearted comment about officiating, that reflects the kind of spontaneous post-game personality many athletes show and does not automatically signal unbothered superstar arrogance or some deliberate challenge to league authority. The transcript dramatically inflates this into claims that she is laughing at the disciplinary system, that the league has lost the psychological war, and that fines mean absolutely nothing to her because she supposedly operates on a different cultural and economic level. These are speculative conclusions designed to mythologize Clark rather than objectively interpret her comments. Professional athletes often brush off minor penalties with humor, and doing so does not indicate contempt for league discipline or psychological domination over officials. The reference to her allegedly hitting a long three over Tiffany Hayes and engaging in trash talk may simply reflect normal competitive intensity, something common throughout basketball at every level, rather than evidence of some larger, symbolic takeover of the league. The repeated use of language like masterclass, ultimate dismissal, psychological war, and different economic and cultural stratosphere reveals the transcript's real purpose: to build a larger-than-life hero narrative that portrays Clark as an untouchable superstar dismantling the league's old structures through sheer confidence and talent. In reality, while Clark is undeniably a highly impactful player with confidence, charisma, and enormous public attention, interpreting every casual post-game remark as proof of league-wide dominance or institutional collapse is an exaggerated fanfiction version of events rather than balanced sports analysis. The passage relies on sensational framing, emotional amplification, and selective interpretation to turn normal basketball competitiveness into dramatic spectacle designed to maximize audience excitement and engagement.
Yeah, I think that's just being a competitor. And, like, that's what's fun. That's what I love about it. And, like, I think that's what gets the crowd into it, too, and gets my teammates hyped up. And I think there's times I can probably find a little bit better of a balance because, like, doing all that is a little bit exhausting, too. But like, I just love the game. I love being out there, and I love those moments and getting the crowd hype. And
this passage is another example of highly dramatized sports commentary that takes ordinary competitive remarks from Caitlin Clark and reframes them as evidence of some larger battle between her and the entire Women's National Basketball Association establishment. If Clark said she enjoys emotional, competitive moments and embraces the intensity of high-pressure games, that is a completely normal response from an elite athlete. Highly competitive players across all sports often say they thrive in emotionally charged environments because pressure and intensity can sharpen focus and elevate performance. However, the transcript exaggerates this into a theatrical villain narrative, suggesting she is somehow deliberately embracing hostility and feeding off a league-wide conflict, which is a major interpretive leap not supported by the quoted statement itself. There is no evidence that Clark is intentionally positioning herself as an antagonist or framing her role as some rebellion against league culture. The claim that the establishment wants a quiet, polite basketball league is especially misleading because professional sports leagues, including the WNBA, actively promote passionate competition, rivalries, and emotional investment from fans as part of growing audience engagement. The suggestion that Clark alone understands what the paying consumer wants is simply rhetorical hype designed to elevate her into a larger-than-life figure while manufacturing conflict with unnamed league authorities. Likewise, the statement that she completely dismantled the mainstream media's fabricated analytics about her defense is a dramatic distortion. If she defended her abilities and explained her defensive challenges, that contributes to a normal basketball discussion about player development, but it does not erase legitimate analysis or criticism. Defensive performance is measured over time through game film, metrics, consistency, and matchup performance, not by one confident press conference quote. This kind of language is crafted to create a hero versus establishment storyline, presenting Clark as a fearless truth-teller battling false narratives and institutional resistance, when the reality is far more ordinary. A talented young player responding confidently to questions about competition and her own growth. Overall, the transcript transforms standard athlete confidence and routine media interaction into an exaggerated conflict-driven narrative meant to excite fans and generate engagement rather than offer thoughtful, balanced analysis of her performance or the league.
Yeah, I mean, I think Steph's really challenged me on the defensive end, and, I think there's probably definitely a narrative of me not being a great defender, but I can guard. Like, I'm long, I know angles, and, I can get my hands out. I can be.
This passage contains some legitimate basketball observations, but is once again framed with exaggerated, emotionally charged language that turns normal sports analysis into dramatic hype surrounding Caitlin Clark and the Golden State Valkyries matchup. It is reasonable to note that Clark has faced criticism and discussion about her defensive ability, as rookie guards entering professional basketball are often scrutinized on that end of the floor, especially when they carry a heavy offensive workload. It is also a valid basketball point that opposing teams may target high-usage offensive players in isolation situations to test their defense and wear them down physically over the course of a game. Clark's own explanation that constant ball-handling responsibilities can contribute to defensive fatigue reflects a common strategic reality in professional basketball, where primary creators often expend enormous energy initiating offense. If she performed well defensively in that game by maintaining positioning, contesting shots, and using her length effectively, that would support the argument that she is capable of being a solid defender within the team system. However, The transcript dramatically overstates these points by claiming she shut the narrative down entirely, completely neutralized the mismatch, and delivered some massive, undeniable truth bomb. Language designed more to celebrate and dramatize than to analyze objectively. Defensive evaluation in basketball is not determined by a single game or isolated possessions. It is judged over extended stretches through consistency, lateral quickness, awareness, effort, rotations, and how well a player performs across different matchups and schemes. Likewise, describing Aaliyah Boston as actively destroying opponents in the paint is likely another exaggerated attempt to amplify an otherwise normal, strong interior performance. The overall structure follows the same familiar pattern of viral sports commentary. Identify a real criticism, present one positive performance as definitive proof that all criticism is false, and elevate routine success into a dramatic narrative of total domination. In reality, Clark can have strong defensive moments while still having areas to improve, just as Boston can dominate stretches without it meaning the opposing frontcourt was destroyed. The passage therefore contains kernels of accurate basketball reasoning but packages them in highly inflated language intended to provoke excitement and reinforce fan-driven narratives rather than provide balanced, evidence-based analysis.
Position, getting down low, trying to roll out hard, and then guards taking great expected shots, and I was just right there to rebound. Thank you.
This passage, again, mixes legitimate basketball analysis with exaggerated, theatrical language meant to create drama rather than provide objective evaluation of the Indiana Fever. The factual part is straightforward. If Aaliyah Boston recorded 16 rebounds and credited good positioning along with effective guard play, that reflects strong execution and highlights the developing on-court chemistry between Boston and Caitlin Clark. Their two-player dynamic is genuinely important because Clark's perimeter shooting, playmaking, and ability to stretch defenses can create opportunities for Boston inside, while Boston's interior presence provides balance and spacing benefits that make the offense more effective. That is a reasonable basketball observation. However, the transcript quickly escalates into hyperbole by describing their chemistry as reaching a terrifying championship-level peak and calling the offense mathematically unsolvable, which is dramatic overstatement rather than serious tactical analysis. No offense is literally unsolvable, and while their partnership may be improving significantly, it remains part of a larger team system that still depends on consistency, defense, depth, execution, and coaching adjustments over a full season. The claim that the coaching staff is completely asleep at the wheel is also an unsupported leap unless backed by specific strategic failures, substitutions, or game management errors. This kind of framing is common in viral sports commentary. Start with a real stat or performance, amplify it with exaggerated language, then create conflict by sharply criticizing coaches or other figures to keep the audience emotionally engaged. In reality, Boston and Clark developing strong chemistry is a promising sign for Indiana, but calling it a terrifyingly unstoppable force while portraying the coaching staff as fundamentally failing is more about generating excitement and outrage than offering balanced basketball insight.
Just said she didn't know she got the tech at halftime and said she could have gotten ejected. And I guess she said.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
Were you worried at all that she would have been ejected?
I didn't know that she got a technical either. So, I guess they announced it, but nobody told us. So, I thought the officials would have told us, but.
Group to close the third quarter.
This transcript is another example of highly exaggerated, clickbait-style commentary that takes a relatively ordinary basketball communication issue and inflates it into a dramatic narrative about institutional failure, fear, and domination surrounding Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. The central factual point, that head coach Stephanie White reportedly said she was unaware Clark had received a technical foul during the game, could reasonably raise questions about in-game communication between officials, scorekeepers, coaching staff, and the bench. In fast-paced professional games, technical foul notifications can sometimes be missed or not immediately communicated clearly, and while that may reflect a breakdown in communication, it does not automatically amount to the systemic failure or coaching malpractice the transcript dramatically claims. The commentary then shifts into pure sensationalism, suggesting that if Clark had been ejected, it would represent catastrophic organizational incompetence, despite there being no evidence of deliberate negligence or that the situation escalated anywhere near that level. It further abandons objective analysis by portraying Clark as some unstoppable force who has broken the league, claiming the old guard is out of options, and using theatrical language like, "the demon is officially awake," which is clearly rhetorical hype rather than serious sports evaluation. This style is designed to energize viewers, create tribal fan engagement, and drive reactions through exaggerated conflict narratives rather than offer balanced basketball analysis. The closing calls to smash that subscribe button, drop your explosive take, and references to destroying the establishment's fake narratives reveal that the piece is structured more as engagement bait than journalism. While Clark is undoubtedly an elite young player whose performances have generated major attention and legitimate basketball discussion, this transcript distorts normal coaching communication issues and competitive sports developments into an overblown story of league-wide intimidation, fear, and collapse, sacrificing factual nuance in favor of dramatic entertainment and audience provocation.